morning, UXers! Let's go! Let's go once
To another
more.
episode of Good Morning.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yes, we are very excited.
Maybe the last recording for this year.
No,
Maybe.
this is
No?
not true.
We have
No, we
more?
have,
Oh
yeah,
my
we have more.
God.
Oh, so poor guy.
No, I'm joking.
No, we have a great guest is next week, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is not the last
Yeah,
one.
and I need to reactivate some contacts for next
Yeah,
guest shows.
because
Yeah.
now Good Morning UX is a regular show. We spoke about
Hmm.
that, and
Yeah.
Friday, yes, Friday, no, we have
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
TV, a program, Good Morning UX with
Yeah,
you,
not just video, because we will launch this
the
content
podcast
in a
also.
podcast too. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, both media for you.
Yeah, you can check it in our feed, especially in Spotify or Google Podcasts, iTunes, and the other platforms. Yeah.
Yes. And today you have another special guest. As
Hmm.
always, we call special
Yeah,
guests,
yeah.
but
We're
she's
back to an author, because we had a lot of
yeah.
guests without books. We we break we broke
No, it's
some
not
our
true.
rules.
No, this is not true. I think all our guests wrote a book.
Not all,
No?
not all.
Oh,
No, we've had some of 3 or 4 guests without books, but with rich content. It's
okay.
not a kind of obligation to have a book,
And no,
because
this
if
is not
you
the
don't
rule.
have,
Yeah, this
yeah,
is not the rule here. It's
yeah.
not
At the
only with
beginning, at the beginning
authors.
was.
Yeah, at the beginning it
Yeah.
was, but now we are inviting people around the world
Yeah.
who is a reference,
Yes,
right?
exactly. The common
Point
point
to
is
invite someone.
to be a reference for us.
Yeah,
It is
that's it.
important. It's a rule.
Yeah,
It's a rule.
yeah.
It's a
And my
rule.
reference and Raphael reference. Okay, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can tell us and share who you are thinking. Oh, I love that kind of guy. He's a reference. Tell us. You can
Yeah.
invite them to stay here with us. So tell us.
Yeah.
Suggest someone.
Yeah. And we can go to our content, because today we have, for me, in my opinion,
Hmm.
it's a not common situation, because today this conversation can work for different profiles, not just
Yeah.
for experienced designers or beginners or leaders. We can use that. You will enjoy,
Yeah.
and we will have insights,
And
no
she
matter what you what your experience, your background, no matter. It's not matter.
and she has a great experience. Come on,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and
Yeah.
good point of view too.
Yeah, if you see the LinkedIn, wow, it's huge. So let's call our next guest, Tara Kelly. Come on. Okay, perfect. So again, I said I would repeat, thank you very much to join us and participating in your videocast of interviews. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, nice. And before we start, maybe someone doesn't know you here in Brazil. Can you please
Mhm.
introduce yourself quickly to open our chat?
Of course. So my name is Tara Kelly. I have a background in UX and product design. I'm like probably all of your listeners. I started eons ago. I actually started back in Italy. Many people don't know that. But I founded a company, brought it over to the US, sold it, and then from there started joining other companies as the first design hire, and then building up a team, moving on to the next company, first design hire, build up a team, move on to the next company. So I did this a few times, both with my own companies and then with some other startups, even one large multinational company. And about a year ago, possibly, I decided to write a book about it. I noticed that I was getting a lot of incoming requests from recruiters, and I just kept wanting to be able to refer them to other people, but there weren't enough other people doing this job. So I wrote the book so there could be more people doing this job, and I could step out and do some other things.
Wow, what experience and so fast. Wow, this chat will be a great class for us for sure. So thank you to share your experience this time with us. And I will start asking a question. Maybe it is the answer to $1 million, an open question, but it will help to start our conversation and connect to your new book, First Designer In. What are the biggest challenges that new generations of designers need to be aware of and take care of for further design steps within companies? What are your thoughts about this?
So new designers to the industry, or
Yes, new designers.
experienced designers being a first designer for the first time, which
Whoa, yeah, it's a good question inside the question. Yes, you're right.
it's two different. I could give both answers, but they're two different answers.
Could you bring
Sure,
for the both? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, okay. So new designers coming into the industry, I think the biggest challenge that everyone has right now is that there are a lot of new designers coming into the industry. And at the junior level, I'm seeing the industry is flooded with new folks coming out of boot camps, especially the boot camps, some coming out of, degrees, university degree programs. And what's happening is there's a big divide. The companies are looking for very senior folks. And there are a few very senior folks, and then there's a lot of junior folks, but there's not enough senior designers inside of those companies to mentor up the juniors. And so what's happening is the folks who are just coming into the market are having a really hard time getting work. This is what I'm seeing in all of the different chats and whatnot that I'm in. So in order to get past this, I think there's a couple of ways that I think folks can try and get past this. Number one is having inside of your portfolio, having work that is not just student work. Hello, Kat. Not just student work. And that means if you're able to get freelance work, great. If you're not, try getting some nonprofit work, or create your own app, side project hustle, whatever you want to call it. And then put that work into your portfolio, because anything that is actual shipped product in a portfolio will weigh much more heavily in the eyes of the hiring manager than classwork. So the first way to distinguish yourself from all of the other folks coming out of boot camp is to have real work in your portfolio, even if that means you have to do it unpaid. Right. And of course, if we're doing something unpaid, we want it to be for a nonprofit or for ourselves. So, those are two good options. Right. The other thing is just I've noticed folks doing their portfolio and interviewing for the first time have a tendency to focus on these are the types of tasks that I know how to do as a designer. But if you step back and think of it in terms of the business, you can think of it more in terms of how do I present my portfolio as I am a solution to a problem your business is having, right? The problem your business is having is you need this type of work done, or you're not able to cover all of your, all of your design needs. I can come in, I can do this. I'm a self-starter. I can work. I've achieved these results, right? So always think about how are you selling yourself to the company that's potentially hiring you?
So it's a huge challenge. Sorry, I have 7 cats. And they are appearing here all the time. Sorry for that.
No, I love cats.
And all is equal.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
the yeah,
black
yeah,
cats.
all the yeah.
They're all
What? Just one is black
A
and
gray,
white, some
yeah,
a
gray,
gray.
gray. Yeah, yeah.
Gray.
They love
so.
to interrupt your conversation.
Can I tell you the funniest thing? I'm allergic to cats, but I love cats. So we have backyard cats. They're outside, and they're all black. We have 5 all black cats, and then a couple of like mixed, mottled gray and whatnot. But we have a backyard full of black cats. So
Yeah,
that's very
we are
funny.
the same. I am allergical. My wife is
Uh,
too, but we love cats, and we have 7 cats, 5 black. So yeah, we are the same position here.
Mhm.
love it.
But sorry for that.
No
Um,
worries.
I think you brought interesting points about sell yourself for the company. I think this is very important, and we have this kind of problem here in Brazil
Mhm.
because the beginners don't know how to do that,
Yeah.
but they need to do that all the
Yeah.
time because
Yeah.
the company speak with them. Oh, come on, sell your design for me
Mhm.
to get your space here, but they are trying to figure it out how to do that.
Mhm.
And I think we have some problems to discuss in your conversation about that today.
Well, my suggestion there is always, get a mentor, get somebody um who can go over it with you, right? So it doesn't always have to be like a mock interview, but you can have somebody look at your portfolio and say like, how would you turn this around? And there are places where you can get mentorship online and without paying and for free, and part of the community. And so definitely folks should do that, and it's international, right? So folks should be able to do that. So
Yeah, and I think probably it is one of the motivations that you decide to write this book, probably one of these subjects. But you have this background of studies, a little classic about design, I suppose.
Mhm.
It's not so common today because we have, as you said, a lot of persons came through the field from different backgrounds, not
Mhm.
just design background, but
Mhm.
you have this classic background in the
Mhm.
field of design. But probably, I don't know, I can be wrong, but you were a designer working a creativity field before the to
Mhm.
start to work with product design or
Mhm.
digital things, and probably you have some difficulties to make this transition for the digital world. I don't know, and you can
Mhm.
walk through into that for us. But
Sure.
um, how did this background impact your experience, especially for these transitions as a first designer? Because
Mhm.
I suppose because especially because there are so many people in transition to design, probably the most part of these designers will be a first design too. And you
Mhm.
had this experience as a first designing many companies.
Mhm.
How your background make difference for you for this transition to a
Sure.
first design? What is difficult you face it?
Sure.
I don't know.
So back to I suppose I am classically trained in design, right? I have a degree from Rhode Island School of Design. And it is also from many years ago. So I did not get a degree in, UX or product design. That was a role those were words that didn't exist when I got my degree, right? So dating myself quite a bit, but my degree is technically in photography. And I remember I took photography because that gave me access to the media labs because they had Photoshop. And so I was able to create my own tiny digital degree inside of the photography department because I had access to the computer labs. But that was my interest when I graduated. And then after I graduated, I went straight into digital work right from there. It was, back in like the way back days. And so I was like writing HTML. I read some books on databases. I figured out how to do, XSLT so I could style XML databases. It was just, it was ridiculous. And I, as a freelancer, put myself out there as somebody who would design software for companies. And that meant the whole thing. I was doing from database all the way up to like, this is what the buttons look like, and putting it all together. So that was my starting place. And I think because of that starting place, what I saw was a lot of these companies were just commissioning work to be done, but had no plans or idea how that would turn into money for them. Right? They're just like, okay, make me a website, but like, how is that going to make you money? How is that going to help your business? And many companies just sunk cash into useless websites or backends that they never used, or and so I moved very quickly from there to into a place of trying to understand more of what the user needs were, even though that was not the vocabulary I had in my mind at the time, right? But that was what I ultimately was pushing towards. After doing a bunch of that freelance work, I actually did some work for, as I mentioned, I was living in Italy. I did some work for the Italian Internal Affairs, their emergency center. So in the US, I don't know if it is where you are too, but in the US, if you have an emergency, you dial 911, right? And an operator picks up and says, "What's your emergency?" Right? And so the equivalent in Italy, I worked on that system, right? So the operator, the screens that they had in front of them, when they picked up and said, "What's your emergency?" the screens they had in front of them was the system that I worked on. And that was when I really learned, like, the user's needs are really critical, because those were life or death situations, right? And once I came out of that experience, having watched operators in a call center because the software didn't work, they were writing Post-it notes and running over and smashing them on the desk of somebody next to them in the hopes that an ambulance would get to someone in time. And I'm like, no, that's not okay. That's not safe, right? And so learning the lesson of like moving into UX, again, that was not the word I had for it in my head, but that's what was happening. And then from there, that was pretty much all I did. And so I think I'm answering in a roundabout way to your question, mostly because I did actually start in that digital realm. And I think the hardest part for me was making the transition between doing that as my own company and doing that for someone else. Does that make sense? Right. So I was a freelancer that whole time. I was doing it for my own company. Then I started my own company when I was in Italy, and I was doing it for my own company. Who are the users? What are their needs? How can we help them? What do we need to do? Again, we run some beta tests, right? So all of that work for my own company, for my own product. It wasn't until I sold that company, I came to the US, and then I had another company. And then I realized, hey, I should go work for someone else for a while. It would be great to have like a stable income. It would be nice, right? And so when I did that, that was the hard part of the transition for me, because I had to be able to say, answer the question, who are you? What do you do? And I had a big list of things that I did. And so what I had to do was pretend like only a part of me existed, and that part was the UX product designer. Everything else that I did for all of my companies, I had to pretend didn't exist so that I could fit into the mold that people think of as UX and product design. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally, totally. You were put in a war zone when you talk about design learning. And I think, unfortunately, this is not the reality for everyone, right?
No.
Because many create a poetic world of design and products, but you were there seeing something, like you said, life and death, and you trying to work and thinking about design to help people. Yeah, whoa, huge experience there.
Yeah.
Rafael,
I think there was a second half of your question about how that could help folks now. I don't think I answered that. So you want to ask it again, I can try and answer it.
No, that was okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we brought a good perspective, because when you talked about your freelance life, I think your challenge were very different, because
Mhm.
we were more free.
Mhm.
We had I don't know, a free way to make things, to solve your problems and the
Mhm.
client's problems. But when you try or when you had your own company, it's another challenge, because you decide to create something for other people, but um, not so free way, I suppose, not
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
You have to pay the bills, right?
Yes, have to
yeah,
pay the bills.
yeah. And you have a boss in a kind of way, because
The market is your
yeah,
boss. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you need to change your approach, I
Mhm.
suppose. Needed to change your
Mhm.
approach. And you decided, maybe you like it a little challenging in your life, in my perspective, because
Yes.
you changed a lot.
Yes.
And you decide, oh, now I will try to be just a employee in a
Mhm.
company
Mhm.
and listen someone a little difficult to listen, or to
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
obey, and I don't know. And when I read your book, actually I'm still reading.
Mhm.
I'm nearly in the end, but I'm still reading. You try to talk a lot about this beginning, this difficult to understand in the context, to
Mhm.
understanding, especially I would like to focus on the cooperative world, not the freelance or
Mhm.
own.
Sure.
You talked a lot about this difficult to understand the context, to understand the maturity of the company, to
Mhm.
understand how much your boss understand what you do.
Yes.
You gave you try to give, not to try, you give some tips, some steps to follow, and I think it is very, very rich for these new designers. But you said your book is for the bosses too, not just
Yes.
for the designers. And I would like to hear from you about it. Why
Yeah.
you decide to write for the boss too? Why you
Yeah.
think the book is important for this
Yeah.
kind of person?
Yeah. So the book is 100% for designers, right? 100%. However, I have this like hope and a prayer, right? That the hiring managers and the founders will also read it and understand some of the messaging. And that is because as you read in the book, uh, every designer who's joining as the first design hire they do have to understand this context. They have to understand the maturity. They have to understand how much all of the people around them do and do not know what they are doing, right? And so if you can also get the founder on board with some of these concepts, you've taken off, 20% of the work from that brand new designer, right? And now you can move on to the next step first. Instead of doing all of the prep work first, they can kind of like jump ahead, and that's good for everyone, right? Because that's really what the founders are usually hoping to get. But what they get is they get a delayed period because they don't know how much they are impeding the progress of the designer by not speaking the same language right off the bat, right? So it is a hope and a prayer, right, that they're going to read it. And I have found actually, what's interesting is, first I will say this, beyond writing a book, I have no desire to make money off of designers. And so I know a lot of times people will write a book and then they put consulting to the back end, like, and at the back of the book, it's like, call me for consulting, right? I kind of do this, but only for founders. If you're a designer and you need help, like there's ways to get help for free, even from me, right? But if you're a founder and you've read this book or they've been heard about the book, then they can actually pay me to tell them what they need to know, right? And so it is my hope that the founders understand this. And even at that, like, I allow them to book 1 hour with me, because I think in 1 hour, I can save their incoming designer a week of work, right? If they could just listen to me for an hour, right? So everything that I do is geared towards getting, like, closing that understanding gap between the founder, hiring manager, a head of product, whoever it is, and the incoming designer. Right? Because when you close that gap, they can move faster and they can feel better about the work they're doing, right? They're not feeling nearly as frustrated. They're not getting blocked constantly or confused or worried, like, oh, I really need to start making an impact in the business, but there's all of this stuff that nobody understands and I'm getting stuck, right? So the more we can reduce that, the better it is.
Great, great. And I think it's important to connect this with other other concepts that you brought and to bring to us in your book. The importance to designers understanding more, or to go beyond what we think is our job.
Mhm.
You talk a lot about this, about business, about understanding. I think probably it's connected with your background as an entrepreneur, but you brought this, and I think it's very important. You talked a lot. We talked a lot about this in our channel too, and I would like to hear from you, how difficult do you see this in the designers professionals, for the design professionals, this ability to understanding and to see beyond the design, just
Yeah.
the design.
Yeah. It is, I think it is an insight that grows with experience, right? So I said it in the book, and I'll say it here again. If you are a junior designer, you just came out of boot camp, do not try to be the first design hire in a startup, because it's just not the right match, right? It's not good for you, and it's not good for the startup. It's not good for you, the designer, the junior designer, because you have no mentorship. You're going to be asked to do all of these things that are not design, and what you need to do is learn design, right? It's not good for the company for the same reason on the flip side, right? They need somebody to come in. They may think they just need a designer, but they need somebody to come in who can, in fact, lay that groundwork, understand the full context of the business. When you have just learned a skill, that's not the time to be trying to understand beyond that skill. You have to master it first, or as best you can, and then move on, right? So how hard is it? I think there are natural, just like, people who are drawn to challenge me, right? Challenge me. Like, there are people who just have that in them. They need that. That type of person is going to do very well as a first design hire, because they're going to be looking, they have kind of mastered their design skills, and they're like, I need a new challenge, right? So rather than change career entirely, it's just expand outward from your design point of view into the more strategic areas of the company, but you maintain your core skill set. You don't have to just invent something new just to be challenged, right? So that type of personality who has a little bit, like a medium level of experience, I would say, in design, is going to do very well. Folks who are okay with ambiguity, or who can at least breathe through it, right? Even if they don't love it, but they can, okay, all right, let's breathe, let's make it through. They'll do okay in the job too, right? But that desire to, I'm going to pause. There is also a desire to, like, solve problems, right? And this is at the heart many times of why people go into design, UX design, and not like graphic design, right? Because if you're going to UX design or product design, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's exciting to put them together in different ways, right? And to test them out, and to try them out and see, are there new pieces? Are there different pieces? How do we change it? What do we do? Who do we talk to? Now, what does that mean? And just keep going and going and going and going and going and putting this puzzle together. Now, anyone who has that capacity and who then decides to turn that capacity with an eye towards the larger business will do well, right? And so I do actually think that it is a job that many UX and product designers can do, as long as they have enough experience of design behind them so that that's not a problem, right? So they've mastered their design as much as they can. They have the desire to solve problems, and they're able to turn that problem-solving desire towards the business while standing on their foundation of design. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
For me.
yeah. Yeah, you speaking with us, I'm seeing layers that you have to achieve, connecting with knowledge and know more about rules, about context, and each layer, it's a kind of steps that you have to achieve to know more about company, more about yourself, more about business, but you have to see clearly what layer I am right now, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Self-assessment is hard.
oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this connects with about mentorship that you spoke about, right? You have to ask help for someone who has the experience to help you to see who you are and where are you. So, yeah. And you brought a concept that I love it about minimum viable design team.
Yeah.
I love this concept. And please, can you walk us through what means minimal viable design team and the benefits of that?
Okay, so it builds off the concept of minimal viable product, right? And with minimal viable product, there is what that term was meant to mean, and then there's the common misconceptions of what it actually means. So what that term was meant to mean was, what is the product that we can give to users, right? The minimum thing that we can do that will actually make them happy, will actually solve their problem to enough of an extent that it's worth it for them to use it, right? The misconception that grew over time about what a minimum viable product was that it was the minimal thing that was viable for the team to build, as opposed to what is viable for the user to use, right? And so what it often became was like, well, this is the best we can do in the amount of time we have, so it's our MVP. No, it's just broken, actually, if it doesn't solve the user's problem in any way, shape, or form, right? So with that, looking at that same thing, if we talk about a minimum viable design team, the reality of what we're looking for is, what are the skill sets? What are the skill sets that need to be present in a design team, whether it's one person or 100 people, right? That are like the minimum that you need in order to be useful to the company that you're in, right? As opposed to, I'm only one person and this is all I can do, and therefore that's all you can get, right, company? Because if it's not useful to the company, it's just broken, right? It's not enough. And so when I talk about minimum viable design team, it really is, number one, it's dependent on the company. Same way a minimal viable product is dependent on the user who would be using the product, right? So it's dependent on the company. There could be companies that have a very, very small need. That's great, because then you as a single person can probably meet that need, right? There are companies that have a massive need. And so if you're brought in as a single person, you are currently broken until you're able to grow the situation enough that you have created a minimal viable design team within that company, right? So what does that mean? I laid out, there's like, I forget, like 6 skills or something, 6 design skills. There's probably more, probably at least 7 or 8, but I laid out 6. There's 6, they're very typical, and they're like classic design skills, everything from graphic design to, from your visual design all the way to, your UX research or your discovery research. And, there's a lot in there. And so if you as the designer are horizontal enough, you're a generalist enough that you can cover, let's say, all of those, then you can be a minimal viable design team, right? If you are in a company that only needs 3 of them and you are a generalist that can cover those 3, then you are a minimal viable design team for that company, right? If you are, and when I say that you can cover it, perhaps there's a 4th item that you can't do. But if you, as a person, as the first designer in, can do the other 3 and are capable of managing the hiring out of the 4th item, you are still a minimal viable design team. So that's what I mean by you grow what that means inside the company until you have met the company's minimum need, right? So you've got 6 skills. You're going to have to be a generalist. You're probably going to have to manage some sort of outsourcing of something, right? Because you can't do everything yourself. And you need to be able to self-assess against what the company needs. So assess the company, assess yourself, see the gaps, and figure it out. Am I going to have to lobby to hire someone? What am I going to outsource? What am I going to learn? Like, am I just going to pick it up and figure it out and learn it until you get to the point where you have covered what the company needs? Over time, you can't continue being the only designer, right? Over time, you're going to have to hire more and contract out more and learn less, actually, in terms of design skills, because you're going to be learning all of these other things instead. But when you first start, you want to just fill the gaps just as much as necessary. That's the minimal viable design team.
Yeah. It's about to have a plan.
Yeah.
You need to have a plan. If you decide to be the first design in, you need to create a plan, and you need to create a view about the company, about you. And there's not, okay, I was hired and I need design ops team. I need no.
Yeah, exactly. We are talking about a sustainable, more intelligent team, because it will force the company directly to train people more. Right? Am I right about my point of view?
Oh, keep going.
No, that's I think the company needs to see, okay,
I think it's more you see the evolution about the company, and you will increase your team until you see this evolution. Not the company will be forced to make something, because the changing will be natural. It will be natural because the maturity is growing.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's more to be honest with the company. You need just it, and they will give you just it as design, not the all famous and likable things in design. Designing systems and other things. No. You just need a generalist, like you said. You need a generalist, and this is designer who will work in all process. Probably he will not be the best designer in each steps, but it will be enough for your necessity now. And the next step, we can hire a research or other profile. And I like it a lot, this in your book, because I don't know, but for me, your book works for different personas, different types of professionals. As you said, for 100% for designers, but for bosses too, for who hiring designers, and for new leaders too, new design leaders too. Because when you talk and you spend 2 chapters, I suppose, talking about this MV, not MVP, MVT.
Design, yeah.
Yes,
MVDT or something.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, something like
DT,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
It's not an easy one to say.
Yeah. But you spent 2 or 3 chapters talking about it, and I think not just a leader, but a senior designer, a junior designer, and a leader can read and understanding their roles and prepare for the next steps. Oh, if you are a designer having the possibility to work as a leader, have your tips here for you. You can build your team in this way, and I think it's very, very rich. In my opinion, it's very rich.
Thank you. I had a very interesting conversation one time with I had a designer who was the first design hire in a company, but did not want to be the design leader. She was like, I just happened to be the first one they hired, but now that I'm in, I realize I don't want to do all that stuff. And she was being asked to interview the folks who would, you know, potentially come in above her, like her future manager, right? Her future design director. And she's like, well, what am I, like, how am I supposed to do that? And I was like, well, you can assess them. Like, are they going to do these things for you? Or do you think that they're capable of, you know, understanding? Do you think they're capable of being a shield against, you know, like all of the incoming engineering requests? And do you think that they're capable of integrating with like the product team and the PMs and working with them? And, you know, all of the things that are, you know, very difficult to do as a first design hire, you're still going to have to do as any design leader. The thing is, as a first design hire, you're going to do those leadership things and the practical, please move the button 5 pixels to the right. Right? You're going to do that too, right? And so the conversation I had with her was like, how does she interview that person who would come in and be the kind of sort of first design hire, right? So, yeah.
The first design leader.
The first design
like,
leader, yeah.
Yeah. You brought an experience from other professional, and for your book, all the experience that you reported here, there is from you, or you have other experience from other designers during your mentorships, or
It's a mix. It's a mix.
Okay.
I intentionally don't say who's from where because, you know, it can create liabilities, I think. So, but yeah, it's a mix.
Yeah, and what kind of patterns have you found in the industry and designers during these conversations?
Yeah. So I do a lot of mentoring of designers, and naturally the folks that reach out to me most often are first design hires, and they're like, help, you know, I need to know what I'm doing. And in those sessions, what I find, the patterns that I see most are very common for them to say, like, I just cannot get anyone to accept like the research timelines. Like, I can't get them to invest in research. Everybody's, you know, everyone in my company, the engineers, this, they all want to go fast. And I know that I need to do research. And how do I get them to, like, how do I get them to slow down long enough so I can do the research, right? Like, that is a question that I have been asked in some form or another by at least 80% of the folks that I've spoken to in that role. And sometimes in other roles too. And unfortunately, the answer to that is you don't, right? Like, the first time you do it, you don't get to say, like, hey, I need this time up front. You don't. You need to work, and like, you just have to leverage every single project that you do to learn something more, right? You tack on your research, you tack on your learnings to all of the other tasks until you've gotten to a point where you have learned enough that you can make a suggestion to the company, which is different than the path that they are on, and say, and I know this because, and show all of your learning that you've put together over these tiny little bits and tiny little tasks. And then they go, oh, And from that point on, you can start asking for time to do research, right? But until you prove the value, which means you just have to like use like the equivalent of guerrilla warfare to get that research done. You just go in and get it done in tiny bits and pieces, or, you know, however you can. You're not going to be given that chance. Nobody gives you the chance to do research. You have to earn it out.
Yeah, I usually talk, no one will ask you to make a research or a flow or a wireframe, but you need to find a space to do and to hack the system, something like that. And you need to have this. You need to have this posture to make these different things. I know probably no, it's not to a behavior for all designers. Some designers don't need to have these
skills, right?
Not skills, but to this posture. Some designers just want to do the design, not to create something or
to be provocative, right?
Yeah.
To stay there and deliver something, but this is enough.
Yeah, but if you want to increase the design in the company, they don't want to make research. If you are worried about it, you need to have this posture, to this behavior, to create the way to make this, not to wait. Oh, no one wants to. Oh, no one. Yeah, no one, because everything is working until now.
That's right. That's right. It's disruptive. It's disruptive.
Yeah. I love it. I don't know, but I have just one question, but it's not about design.
Okay.
About children's book.
I told you.
Yes, my children's books.
Yeah, I would like to understand more about it. Why you make children's book? There is connection with design.
I mean, everything is connected, right? So I'll tell you how I got into writing children's books. I never had a desire to write them before. When I paused to write the first Designer In book, it was the first time I've really written anything, frankly. Like I don't have a history of being an author, right? This was the first time I had written anything. And what I found was a few different things were happening. It was kind of pandemic time. My kids were home all the time. I have two small children. They are now 8 and 4. They were less during the pandemic. I am absolutely the goofiest parent you ever come across, right? We tell stories, we act them out, I make up words. I mean, sometimes I don't know what to say and I just make up words and they just laugh, and you know what, it just really super goofy. And so what I found was I was getting stuck during writing First Designer In. I would get stuck, my kids were home, and I would just start saying goofy things. And I was like, this is fun. I'm going to write it down. And so I started writing them down. And then I started writing down some of the stories. And I'm like, oh, writing is easy. I could just take all the stuff that we do in the day and write it. Like, now I know how to do this writing thing, right? And so it turned into, in the first year, I put out 7 books, 7 children's books, in addition to the design book. So yeah, and they're illustrated picture books, and I absolutely love it. And so I decided to continue my pause, and right now I'm doing primarily the children's books, and then I'm supporting the design book, right? You know, like I said, I do some consulting, and you know, I love doing talks like this. These are great. But my day-to-day, I'm mostly working on the children's books. How does like a UX designer get along doing children's books? Well, first, the publishing industry is so broken. So if you want a puzzle, that's a fun one, right? It's like a really fun puzzle to look at. But even just in the day-to-day, they are ultimately products, right? So do I do user testing? Yes, I do. I have children read them. We have prototypes. like I go through that entire process with the books, as well as now I've got two different personas, the kids who have to read it and the parents who have to buy it. I also have the persona of the teachers who and the librarians who would consider bringing it into their school collection, right? And so there's all of these different avenues, but ultimately it's a product with multiple personas who I need to figure out where it fits.
Wow, you turned a suffering and a goof moment into a great project.
Yeah, she has a publishing company now.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tara, I would like to know, where can people follow your content, exchange ideas, and read your content? Can you share?
Sure. So the domain for the book is firstdesignerin.com. There should be my various, like my Twitter. As myself, I just have like a Twitter handle. I don't have like Facebook groups and whatnot for the design book. There's just my Twitter handle. There's like a work with me page on there. I also am available on ADP list as a mentor. And that's what I said earlier. For designers, I'm not out for your money. Like, I just want to help. I'm part of the same community as you are. We're all in the same boat together. And so designers can always reach out to me on ADP list for mentoring. And then for the children's books, those I write under the pen name of Kelly Tills, Tills. And, you know, all of the socials are related to Kelly Tills books and whatnot.
Oh, if it was possible, you can send us the links and we will put here in the description.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And again, thank you for your time, patience, and answers to understand our English as I comment.
Oh, this has been so much fun. Thank you for having me. You guys are great.
Oh, nice. It's an honor to be able to have these answers and moments with you. So thank you. And I hope to be able to invite you and bring you once again here with us in the future.
Sure. Yeah. If after this airs, if folks have questions, we can always do like a more questions based one from, if any of the listeners had like things that they wanted to talk about.
Oh, great.
Yep,
we can do like a deep dive on any of that if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, good idea. So that's it. Thank you so much again and again and again.
Sure.
Rafael Buritai.
Yay! Yay!
What is your thoughts about this conversation?
I like it. I enjoyed a lot, and because, as I said at the beginning, this conversation could be important or interesting for any kind of people, not just for beginners. But if you are a beginner, Tara brought a lot of tips and good thoughts about to what you need to study, what you need to think in your time as designer. But if you are a senior becoming a leader, you have a good content too, because she talked about create a team, to have a business perspective. And I think this content today is very, very rich for our audience.
Yeah. I think she brought a large angle of actions, learning, experience, how to do that, how to think about that. So I think she brought a lot of insights. I think this is the word. A lot of insights for us, right? For me, for you.
Yeah, totally.
Audience.
Totally. Yeah.
So I think,
and I would love to have comments and new questions as she proposed it to us.
Yeah,
to have questions in our feedback space. I don't know, comment
this is
space.
Amazing. Yeah, you can write some questions, not only for her, but for all our guests here, and you can invite them again to answer your your question.
Yeah.
So think
Yeah,
about
I
it.
have a provocation here.
Ooh.
You can, if you like it, you who are watching us, if you like it, if you enjoyed these conversations or any other conversations that we brought, you can go to the LinkedIn or Twitter and talk directly with the guests,
Oh, yeah.
talk with them about our show, where you known them, and talking about design team. Maybe they can they can feel the interest to back here. I don't know. And you know about who I am talking now.
Yes, probably you watched your
Not
show
less. I don't know
before.
the.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know the order, but maybe the last one was amazing, so you can share with him. But I don't know the order. Yeah, will be
Yeah.
a surprise for everyone.
Yeah, but for today
Today,
we have this challenge too, because
yeah, Tara.
Tara asked for
Yeah,
new
for
questions.
yeah. So yeah, you can send us comments here. And Rafael, what time is it in Portugal right now?
Now it's 10 p.m.
10 p.m. So you can imagine how tired it is, Rafael.
Mm-hmm. A little, and
We are
hungry.
recording a lot of videos here for design team, so we are tired, but we love to do that for you. But to answer that, please join us. Subscribe the channel, comment, share, like we said, in all networks, etc. So stay with us all the time here in DesignTeam, right?
Yeah. And your comment is very important for
Yeah,
us.
in your like also, and dislike not so.
Oh, maybe because the
No,
algorithm works.
no, come on, no, shut up. So thank you very much for your time, and that's it. See you in the next episode. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.